I'm the attorney for Mr. Veytia.
Please tell us what's happened today in the court.
Well, today was a hearing at which he was either going to admit or deny that he was the Edgar Veytia who's wanted in federal district court in Brooklyn. And so he's agreed that, in fact, he's the person indicted there, not that he's guilty, but only that he is the person that they're looking for. And he's agreed to go without any delay to New York. And it's expected that he'll have court there tomorrow morning at 9:30 in the federal district court in Brooklyn.
So the process is going to continue over there?
The process will be the same there as here. It's just that he has agreed to go to New York quicker than would normally occur. And he intends to, as he has here, plead not guilty there and continue to fight these charges.
Are you going to continue to represent him there?
Yes.
And can you tell us about his sentence? What time does he face in jail?
Well, first of all, he's entered a plea of not guilty, and so we don't know what the result's going to be. But if convicted, he's certainly facing a significant period of incarceration, a minimum sentence of at least 10 years, with a possible sentence, of course, of life. But we don't anticipate any of those results. But these matters take a long time, and this is the early stage of the proceedings, and we're just going forward.
So he already declared not guilty?
That's correct, and he'll re-enter a new plea of not guilty tomorrow in federal court in Brooklyn.
That's what's going to happen tomorrow?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Is he in custody right now?
He's presently in custody. He'll be transported as the magistrate judge indicated this evening to New York, and he's expected to appear at 9:30 tomorrow morning in the federal courthouse in Brooklyn.
How has he been feeling?
Well, it's never fun to be arrested, so it's always a shock to anybody, but he's a young man, he's a healthy man, and he's doing just fine.
Who was the part of the family that went here?
Well, present in court was his wife, his sister, and his son.
Are they U.S. citizens, or they came from Mexico after this?
Well, some of the family members are U.S. citizens, some aren't. His children are U.S. citizens. He's a U.S. citizen.
Who is it that lived here in San Diego who he was visiting?
Well, he had a residence in both Mexico and the United States. His family has been living in the United States.
Does he have any business in San Diego? I understand he has two businesses in San Diego.
At this point, I'm not aware of what his business interests may be in San Diego. Most of his business and his employment was in the Republic of Mexico and the state of Nayarit. So that's what I'm mostly aware of at this point.
Do you know anything about his post in Mexico? Is he still Attorney General there?
Well, I understand that they have appointed an acting Attorney General in his absence, and so, the future of that position, at least at this point, is unknown until we see, what happens in this case.
At this point, what are the charges?
Well, the charges, it's essentially aiding and abetting a narcotics conspiracy. Again, as I mentioned, those are only the charges. He's entered a plea of not guilty, he denies guilt, and we're going to continue. It's always difficult from reading an indictment or a charging document to determine what the quantities are. In the federal system, they usually allege, as they have done in this case, an amount of drugs which at least invokes or requires a minimum mandatory sentence. In this case, they've alleged more than 5 kilograms of cocaine, which then requires, subject to other conditions, a minimum sentence of 10 years if convicted. But again, it's difficult from looking at a charging document to understand all the facts of the case, but at least that's the charge.
How many charges does he face? Is it just one?
It's the one conspiracy charge.
Is it your understanding that this is in connection with the Beltran Leyva group?
Well, there's a lot of groups in Mexico. Again, this is early stage. We haven't been provided with any significant discovery, and so there's no specific mention in the indictment or the charging documents as to who he's alleged to have been associated with.
In the discovery, I'm sorry, do you have tapes, wiretaps? What do you have in discovery?
At this point we have very little, so I really can't disclose what we have. It isn't much. As you know, this you can tell by looking at the indictment if you have that it's a long-term investigation. So presumably there are lots of reports out there that we'll have to wait to get before we can answer these questions.
Okay. Is Mr. Veytia aware that if he pleads not guilty, the trial can take a long time and that he may be arrested during that time?
Well, he's already been arrested. Mm-hmm. He is in custody. Presumably, he's going to remain in custody, likely to remain in custody.
Okay.
These cases can take many months, if not years. So at this point, I can't predict, but I expect it's going to be rather lengthy.
Okay. Was there any reason why he was not wearing the uniform today?
Well, it's anticipated that he's going to be transferred this evening on a flight to New York. And so, out of respect for him and everyone else, they don't want to transport somebody in jail clothes.
Okay.
Is there a possibility that he can receive bail once in New York?
Well, there's always a possibility of bail. And bail is something that everybody's entitled to at least ask for. At this point, we've decided to not make that request in California because New York could change the bail status as soon as he got there. So it's something we may consider once he gets to New York.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice somebody asked this, but why is the FBI transporting him and not the marshal?
You know, as I understand it, it was a joint investigation of both the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Drug Enforcement Administration. The U.S. Marshal is the agency that actually takes custody of us people, and normally they transport, but there's nothing significant about who's transporting. The fact is he'll be in New York this evening.
Do you know where he's going to be arrested, where he's going to be located in New York?
There's two federal jails in New York. There's a Metropolitan Detention Center, which is in downtown Brooklyn, and then the Metropolitan Correctional Center, which is in Lower Manhattan. So it's undecided yet, or I certainly don't know exactly which institution will be housed in.
So it has to be one of those.
It'll have to be one of those two, yes.
Is it going to be a private flight?
No.
No? Okay.
So just to confirm, he was being investigated since 2013, right?
According to as I understand, the indictment does reference those time frames.
I'm sorry, you said you are going to be his attorney
Yes.
throughout the whole case?
Yes.
You anticipate?
Has he talked to any officials in Mexico, the governor, anybody has tried to contact him?
Obviously, I can't disclose what he's done, but right now, he's in custody. It's difficult when you're in custody to have much communication with anybody. But, like anyone else in custody, he's mostly concerned about fighting the charges and staying in touch with his family.
Okay, and has he been able to receive any visitors during time in jail?
It generally takes about 10 days to make arrangements to have visitors approved for entry into the jail. And as you know, he was just arrested last week. So that effort will be made
in Brooklyn. Okay.
As opposed to here.
There was this version of the Mexican media that El Chapo leads to his arrest.
Well, I read
correct?
a lot of things in all kinds of newspapers, including Mexican newspapers, that are inaccurate, and I would have to state that it's absolutely inaccurate.